Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over a few items kind of in a cottage core style. And we're going to start with this little mirror, and I think that this is probably home interior. It's plastic, and when my friend Anna and my sister and I went thrifting last week, this is one thing that I picked up. Actually, the only thing that I picked up that day. But this is plastic, but it paints up really well. So I ended up just having to do one coat of the color Vintage Duck Egg here. Now, a lot of people think that you can't paint plastic, but this particular plastic actually paints really well. And maybe even covers better than wood. But now once I get this covered well, I have two choices. I could either use a very high grit sandpaper and just do some distressing around on the high spots. But I can also use a damp cloth if I don't let this dry too long. But I just used my sanding sponge and got plenty of distress that way. And then once I got this distressed the way I wanted it, I actually wanted quite a bit of distressing, and I had that pretty brown to go down to. Once I got it distressed, then I just went over this with a clear top coat. And I just used a Dixie Belle brush on top coat, but you could cover up that mirror and spray it with a clear coat, or use any kind of brush on that you want. But once I got a clear coat put on this, then I'm just going to put an arrangement in it. And my plan was to kind of leave the mirror showing and just do a small arrangement in the bottom. But somehow in the process of doing this, and I didn't get that filmed, I broke my glass, and I don't know how, just at some point I noticed that it was broken, so I just decided to go over it with some scrapbook paper and then do an arrangement with a little with some twigs to kind of look like a limb, and that's what I ended up doing. But I didn't get that filmed. I thought I had the camera on, and I didn't. And I also decided that the little pocket area there in the bottom needed a little something on the front of it. So I took one of my molds that I already had made and painted it the same color blue, and then went over it with some of my bronze gilding wax and just added that to the front with some hot glue and some wood glue. So although it wasn't exactly what I had in mind when I purchased this, I did like the look that I ended up with. And then the next item that I'm going to make over is a little wall bucket, and I've made these over before, but this one I found some napkins that I bought at Hobby Lobby, and they just happened to be on sale for like $1.50 for a pack. So I really liked the retro looking floral print on them. So that's what I'm going to do on the top of this. I'm not even going to bother to paint underneath it, because this is light enough that all you're going to do is just see some dimension in your color. You're not going to see the yellow that's on here. So I just decoupaged that on I painted this Vintage Duck Egg on the bottom, and then decoupaged the napkin on the top. And I think napkins are one of the most versatile craft supplies that you can use, because you can decoupage them on so many different things, and I think they decoupage really well, and you can generally find some really neat prints. So anytime you can find a really pretty print that you know will decoupage on something in a pack of napkins, whether you need them or not, think it's very smart to get them, because even if you have to pay full price of these would have been $5.99, and I think there were 20 in it, and even that is a really good deal, given that one napkin can usually do a whole project or more. Now I'm pretty sure this one I had to use part of another one also. But I still think that's a very good value, especially since I bought them so cheap this time. Now, always make sure when you are decoupaging with napkins that you take, usually there's 2 layers, back layers to take off. And if you can't find those layers, you can pull it off usually with a piece of tape. But there's usually 2 layers to remove, and sometimes when I think there's just one to remove and I go to decoupage it on, then the 2 layers that are left try to separate. So it's really important that you make sure that you're only that you're only decoupaging with 1 layer. But this really has a more of a retro to cottage core style, I think, and I just think it works really well with this color of blue. Now with this one, once I get this finished, I'm going to put a stamp on the bottom, and then I'm going to, instead of distressing this, my stamp is going to be in black, and then I have that black rim there around the top. So instead of using sandpaper on this, or even rubbing paint off, because I don't want to rub down to the yellow and metal color, actually. Then I'm just going to take a marker and do some fake distressing on it. Now, anytime I'm going to meet my napkins together, that I just like to tear that so it has more of an organic look. It's just a lot softer look, and you don't see that obvious line. But once I get this decoupaged on, I get it completely covered. Then I'm going to add a stamp to the blue on the bottom to kind of bring this together. There's a lot of black lines in this paper, and then I have that black rim at the top, so I'll put that black stencil on the bottom, and then do my fake distressing in black, and that'll kind of bring this all together. And I won't be able to fit the whole stencil on the bottom, so I just find a couple of lines in one of these stencils, and then I use my black Stays On ink and a little makeup brush and stencil that on the bottom. I'll try to add this one in the description because I haven't had it very long, so I think I can find this one. And if you haven't tried stenciling this way, I like these little stencils like this with a lot of detail in them, because I like to use my makeup brush and ink on these, and it's just a lot neater look. It looks more factory, actually, and so you need to really give this a try if you haven't already. So once this one was finished, I finished it off with a clear matte finish. And I just used a Dixie Belle top coat that I brushed on. And now the next item is going to be this tray. And it's already been painted. But I'm going to change the color to this vintage duck egg that I've been working with. And I just give this one coat because it's so close in color that it works out and it covers well like that. And I'm going to leave that off-white color on the inside. And this is another one that instead of using my sanding block on or doing wet distressing, I want the distressing on it to be black because I'm going to use that same paper on this one, or the same napkin on this one. So I give this one coat and let it dry well, and do my fake distressing on it. And I'm going to put the paper on the inside of this one. And you don't have to do any measuring on this, because once this is dry, then I just put my one layer of my napkin inside this, and then I take my fingernails and just kind of press them in around all the edges, and that will give me my line so that when I take it out, I'll know exactly where to cut to make it fit perfectly. And this also, once it's finished, I'll finish it off with a clear coat. But I decided that I wanted to add some legs to this. So I just wanted to raise it up a little bit. And I had some handles that I would never think to put on as legs. But I ordered them from Amazon and got them here and thought that they were way too small for the project that I wanted. So they'll be just the right size here to put on as legs. As you can see here, that's how I separated these layers, is just by taking a piece of tape, putting it on the back, and then pulling, and that will pull that back layer off. But now the thing about it, it usually just pulls one layer at a time. So if you're unsure if there's a third layer, there usually is. But if you're unsure, then make sure and add that tape somewhere on that napkin that you're not going to be using, because you'll destroy that part of your napkin. Now, before I painted the bottom of this, I decided to go ahead and add the legs, because I wanted it to stick better, and I was afraid it wouldn't stick to that paint as well. So these are those little handles that I ordered that were too small. So I'm just going to glue those first on. I'm going to put 4 of them on here, and I'm going to glue them first. I used hot glue and wood glue. And then I'm going to take some little bitty screws. Now, it will take very small screws so you don't go through your tray, but I'm going to go back and add those little screws. But I think that gave it enough lift that it worked. And now for the third item, I thrifted this container. I don't really know what to call it. It's metal, and I like the inside being black because that's going to be what I need for this vignette. But I love the little bunny on the top, and I thrifted it back like early in the winter with Easter in mind, and or spring in mind. And so I'm just going to give this 2 coats of the color buttercream, but I'm going to make sure that I don't get any on the inside or the bottom, because the bottom is black and the inside is black. And so I'm just going to give it this 2 coats on the outside. And then once it dries well, then I'm going to wet distress this one and then clear coat it when it's dry. And that's all that I have to do to this one. Now, a very helpful tip when you've let your paint dry too long and it doesn't seem to want to wet distress well is to mist it with some water and let it just sit for just even seconds, and then do your sanding. And I forgot that I did use my sanding block here. But even the sanding block, once you let it dry too long, and this actually dried overnight, it doesn't want to do a lot of, it just takes a lot of work to get your distressing. But if you mist it with the water, and especially if you let that water sit for just a bit, it will sand off very easily, so easily that you have to be careful sanding it then. I actually could have used a damp cloth after I misted it like this, but that's a good way to get some heavy distressing without a lot of work. So for my next video, I'm going to work with some scrap pieces of wood, and we're just going to make some decor, some little signs and pictures for your tiered trays, and just to set out for spring decor. So start gathering up some little wood pieces, and any size will work, because we're even going to do some tiny ones for the tiered trays. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.